Hi, and welcome to Coaching Voices Podcast. I'm Pravin Sharma, an executive and leadership coach and consultant with over 2 decades of experience in the industry. I truly believe in the transformative power of coaching and the profound impact it can have on people's lives. In each episode, we dive into candid conversations with seasoned coaches, exploring what coaching really is and whether it's the right path for you. Together, we uncover how you can unlock your full potential and step confidently into leadership roles within your organization. In this episode, we have the incredible honor of speaking with Marilyn O'Hearne, a globally experienced coach, mentor, and thought leader who has been transforming lives across more than 40 countries since 1998. With her visionary approach, Marilyn helps coaches, leaders, and teams move from the uncertainty of our fast-changing, culturally complex world to the clarity, confidence, and innovation needed to unlock potential and achieve sustainable success. As a certified coaching supervisor, mentor coach, and a popular speaker, Marilyn is a recognized authority in direct communication, unconscious bias, cultural intelligence, and emotional intelligence. Her systemic approach and compassionate truth-telling create an environment of trust and fresh perspectives, empowering individuals and organizations to expand capacity without the risk of burnout. Get ready for an insightful conversation as we explore Marilyn's journey, her work, and her vision for the future. Hi, Marilyn. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Let me start our conversation by asking you about your coaching journey.
Okay, my coaching journey started in 1998.
Oh, wow.
And a long time ago. So I celebrated 25 years of coaching this last year. And I'm into my 26th now, and I still love it. So I had a previous career. It was also development, people development. And I was especially trained in systems theory. Do you know about systems theory?
I'm familiar with the concept of system thinking. Not sure if system theory is the same as system thinking.
Yeah, I think you're probably on it. It's when we're working with one individual, we're keeping the entire system, whether that is an organization or a community or a family or a nation, in mind. And and there's a ripple effect. If you work with one person, it's going to have an impact on the system and vice versa. So I was reading a systems journal and it mentioned coaching. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. I enjoyed my previous career and I was successful in it. I was always looking for what else is there? And then I saw something in my local newspaper and it mentioned a meeting about coaching. So I went to the meeting and it was like falling in love.
Right.
And I'm still in love with it. So that's when I started. And because I'd been in the people development business and I was used to credentialing, it was required in my previous career. Then I automatically wanted to get, even though it was similar to what I'd been doing, I wanted to get trained and certified and get going with it as quickly as possible. So I did.
25 years of career progression. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
How did you start back then? Did you go directly into PCC or were there any ACC that you went from ACC, PCC and became MCC?
I went directly to PCC because there was no ACC at the time. Okay. Yes. So the International Coach Federation was founded in 1995. And so 3 years later is when I discovered coaching. And the original coaches who had created the organization had grandfathered themselves in as MCCs, but I had to start at ground zero. Because I just missed that process. And I was a little frustrated about it at the time, but it's all good. I love learning. That's a high cultural value for my family. And
Yeah.
I think for this nation, for the United States, it's the idea of you get a good education, you're going to go further in your career and your life. So but I also find it really fun, and that was stressed in my family as well, just to continuously learn and develop. What a great career to be doing that in.
Yes, indeed. And this is why I like coaching. There are tons of people out there who wants to get into the coaching is because it transforms people's life, right?
Yes.
When you first started, what are the inherent challenges you face at that time?
Yeah. Well, one was that I live in the middle of the country in Kansas City, in the middle of the US, and people were not as aware of coaching other than sports coaching. So coaching as a career, as a profession had started like many trends do on the coasts, on the East and West Coast. And then it takes a little while longer to filter into the middle. So I was going around telling everyone I knew how excited I was about coaching. And people I didn't know would look at me and say, well, what are you coaching? Tennis? Because I'm that kind of small framed. I don't appear that, like a muscle woman, or like, what are you coaching? And no, it's not tennis. It's leaders and teams. And one of the challenges was, as I approached organizations that I'd identified with, that I'd really enjoy partnering with for development, they said, oh, we tried coaching and it didn't work out very well. Well, what had happened was that someone, a consultant, had heard, about coaching and knew it was a hot trend. They added it to their business card, their website, and called themselves a coach without any further training. And so it wasn't what the organization was expecting. They didn't get what they wanted. And so they already didn't have a good first taste of coaching. So that was one thing to overcome. There was lots of education about what is coaching. And I'm just fortunate that as a pioneer in my community, and I love networking, and people already knew me. As the word got out, then organizations would contact me and say, hey, I hear you're doing leadership coaching. We're starting a new program. Would you come in and interview with us? And that's how it started to build. So, and then because I have the global experience, international, intercultural, then I was encouraged to run for the International Coaching Federation Board of Directors in 2007. And I submitted my profile and was selected for the nominating slate and voted in and served for 6 years. In that capacity, I got to know lots of other coaches, and they've brought me in to different organizations, including working with the United Nations. And I've been doing that for over 10 years.
What an honor to have this opportunity working with the United Nations.
It is, and so aligned with my values and my vision. My vision is to unlock all potential, and that has a social justice component to it as well, so that we can all live in prosperity and peace. So, what would it be like to live in a world where each person had the opportunity to live into their full potential and contribute to prosperity and peace?
The world would be totally different if everybody thinks about living in peace and prosperity.
Yes.
How would you define the transformative power of coaching when it comes to people's life, the change that they're looking for?
Yes. And so I picture transformation. We love to use metaphors in coaching, like a flower blossoming, or the butterfly, or but it starts looking like one thing, and then it changes over time, and that blossoming or emerging.
You're talking about the caterpillar to the butterfly, that kind of transformation?
Yeah. So the seed is there, right? The seed is there, and there's some innate strengths that we want to identify and help that person, partner with them to tap into even further, so that they can achieve their goals in a sustainable way.
When I first visualized the power of coaching, and after I experienced the power of coaching, I truly believe in it. I do. Now, I really want this coaching industry to thrive for a long amount of time because it has this transformative power. It can change people's life. Unfortunately, at this time, this coaching industry is going through some kind of like turmoil, is because this industry is not regulated at all, and people are going into online courses and getting them some level of certification and calling them, life coach, business coach, leadership coach, health coach, whatever you want to call it. And this is a sad reality, whether or not they're providing any kind of quality education or no, that is needed for the coaches. Now, since you serve in the ICF board, is there any kind of initiative that's been going on from ICF to regulate this coaching industry?
Well, it's a voluntary, regulation in our country, and I know there were some other countries and even states within the U.S. that have looked at licensing, requiring licensing, and so far that hasn't happened in the U.S. I believe maybe it has in a few other countries. And I know for the EU, both the ICF and the EMCC, the European Mentoring Coaching Council, came together and said, here's what here's the standard for coaching. Here, ethics and guidelines and the competencies, and this is what you should expect in coaching. And so that's written in the EU. But I'm not aware of, because I haven't kept up with that, on who's requiring licensing and who isn't in terms of countries right now. Again, the profession that I came from did require licensing. It was illegal for you to operate without the license. I don't know if we'll get to that, or if that's something that we desire or not. Because, in the U.S., everything is by state. So, for example, if you have a medical license in the state of Kansas, it's not going to transfer to California. So if you had a coaching license in one state, it may not transfer to another, or across countries, because I lived in Brazil for 2 years. And while I was, licensing for my former career, I said, well, there's no one with that title in Brazil. So could I use someone in a similar title? And they said, no, you just have to put it on pause for 2 years. Thought that was very inflexible. So you run into some issues like that if in the U.S. if you have required licensing. I think it's the ICF is trying to still educate the public and protect the public, and that's why there is a code of ethics, and people can be reported and lose their credential or their membership.
Now, coming to the coaching, since you've been in coaching industry for over 2 decades, to 25 years or so, can you tell us a little bit about, just to give general idea for those who are considering coaching as a career, they really don't know what it is and how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And from your perspective, how do you define coaching and what it takes to become a successful coach?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Thanks. So, the ICF definition is coaching is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. I think that's true. And previously, it talked about partnering and seeing your clients as creative, resourceful, and whole. And I think that's really important, that there aren't that many careers in development where people feel like, or it's set up to be shoulder to shoulder, equal partners. It's more usually, I'm the expert and you're the person in need of help.
It's a partnership from that.
Yes.
Yeah, definition.
Yeah. A true partnership. And I think that can vary a little bit. One of my colleagues on the ICF board from India talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lived and worked in Malaysia and Hong Kong, and I was as a university professor, very revered, and so there was definitely a different status as a university professor, and I think there's that tendency to see a coach as a guru or guide in some cultures, and that you may have to kind of start there and then work into more of the equal partnership if it's not something that the person's used to doing, if that makes sense. So I think this awareness of cultures is super important. There's been a study by Ang-Van-Dyne-Rockstuhl that says 90% of leading executives in 68 countries has identified, cultural intelligence as a key success characteristic. But you also asked, what do coaches need to do? So I think to get trained, to mentor, to have ongoing learning and development. And one of the ways of doing that is through coaching supervision. That's something that I provide. It's not required yet, except for team coaches through ICF, but it is required for EMCC members to be a member of that organization. And who knows where it will go with ICF, but I just find it useful. I'm part of 2 different coaching supervision groups myself, as well as providing it. And then I would say also, and I know you're active on social media too, and you see this, beginning coaches reaching out to other coaches for practice. Okay, that's great, a certain percentage, but don't just rely on coaching other coaches who are already trained to be at a high level of awareness of themselves. Go out and coach real people, get some clients, and don't, earn all of your hours through coaching other coaches. That would be one piece of advice. And I know I've seen that a lot in online forums.
That was one of my subsequent questions that I was thinking about asking you, is that what I've seen in the industry itself, I've been involved with ICF since 2020 or so, 2019, around that time. What's happening is people go and then get that certification from ICF, ACC to begin with, or PCC. And once they have that certification, once they're, I would say coach ready, I would say, now the monumental task for them is to find the client.
Yes.
And without client, you're practically you're not a coach because you're not making any income and it's very hard for you to sustain your life just to go in that path.
Absolutely.
So what a lot of people do is they drop it, thinking like, well, this is not the right career. This is not the right path for me. What advice you have for those coaches who are in that limbo, or struggling to find the clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are coaches that specialize in that business marketing development. And I needed to hire one because that wasn't my background. And so that was helpful for me. People also talk about, don't leave your day job until you've got your coaching business started. Yeah. That's another approach. Some people can be hired. It's not a high percentage as internal coaches, or maybe within the organization you're already working. You can let them know, hey, I'm doing coaching now, and here's what the results are. And is there any room for me to be doing that in my current position, or could we craft a new position? So that's another alternative. And then some people go with multiple like subcontracting companies. And, you see a lot of those. And they're usually a lower fee per hour because you're a subcontractor. You're not getting the initial contract. And
you're talking about the company like BetterUp,
yes,
stuff like
yes,
that.
Okay. Yeah. And so I know people that's one way to get your client hours, right? And to build up your confidence and get experience working with real clients, not just coaches.
Yeah.
Right. And there's some at the very low end of pay, and there's some at a higher level of pay. So you just have to do some research on that. So there's different ways of doing it. And also for me, in my previous career, I was already doing some paid speaking and writing, and that's another entry. I called it like paid PR. I continued to do that. And that was another way for people to get to know, like, and trust me, and to make an entry into an organization.
Absolutely. From your perspective, what are the qualities that one need to have to become a coach? Because it's not for everybody, of course.
Right. Yeah, that was a little surprising. And when I chose a coach training program, that many years ago, I think there were fewer than 10 coach training programs. Now there's hundreds and hundreds. And I would really advise people to choose one that's going to help you build your business, that they're not just going to give you coaching skills or help you develop your coaching skills. But back to the coaching skills and what does it take to be an effective coach? I think what it takes to be an effective coach, especially one with cultural intelligence, which is so important, is, and I've trademarked this term, ACHE. So A for awareness, being aware of your own culture, how that impacts how you see others, how you partner with others, being aware of others' multiple cultural identities, and how that impacts your partnership and their goals. And so that's the A. And then the C is for curiosity. We want to be open and curious, to not just say, we look at someone and we say, oh, they're X, Y, and Z. We want to discover about them and their goals, so that we can best partner with them, and to ask those powerful, impactful questions to help them to look at things from different perspectives. And then the H is for humility. So just like I talked about when I started coaching, there were these other coaches who had just grandfathered themselves in. And for me to just say, okay, well, I have a lot of training and experience in the development field too, and I have to start over again. I could either pout about that or say, well, I'm just going to start with a beginner's mind, and there's always new things and approaches to learn. And then the E is for empathy. So being able to put yourself in someone's shoes, to appreciate and understand without judging their experience and their perceptions.
Okay, so it's ACHE: awareness, curiosity, humility, and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And since you have this rich coaching background, what is the success story looks like from your perspective?
So like an invitation to share, I can share a success story in coaching, which, that's one of the things that keeps us going in coaching, right? Yeah, it's so fun.
That's the motivation,
is to partner with our clients and then celebrate their successes with them. So I think one that pops out right now is a European leader that I was partnering with as their coach, and they were based in South America. And so when our first session, I said, what are your coaching goals? And they said, well, I want to improve my negotiation skills and relationships with external partners here. And I said, great. Can you give me an example of that? Or be a little more specific? And the person kind of shouted, I want to prove to them they are wrong. So
that's the enthusiasm.
Wow. I thought, where's this gonna go? Because it didn't sound like those qualities were there. The ACHE, the awareness, curiosity, humility, empathy. I think the person was super frustrated about living in this new culture and expecting people to adapt to the way they were instead of making some adaptations themselves. So my question to them was, how direct do you think you are as a communicator? And they said, very direct. And I said, and how direct do you think the South Americans, your external partners, are? They said, very indirect. And then the light bulb, went off. It was that they were expecting other people to be like them. And that was ending up in a lot of frustration and impatience, which it kind of boiled over to that anger, really. And so I asked at the end of the coaching, what have you gotten out of the coaching? They said to step back, look at things more strategically, kind of like a chess game, and to be more curious, like you, like a coach. And, so that was a really fun success to celebrate. They reached, they could see that their goals of improving negotiation, and even laughed about it, and improving the external partnership relationships wasn't going to happen if they believed that they were right and the other people were wrong.
Now, moving on to our next question. You mentioned that you provide coaching to a team or a group, you said?
Yes.
What is coaching supervision, and how do you approach it? I don't know if that supervision has something to do with, I don't know if they're correlated or not, what I'm asking here.
Yeah, so two different things. I am certified in both team coaching, which is coaching teams and organizations, and also as a coaching supervisor. And I do individual coaching supervision, and I also do coaching supervision groups. So coaching supervision is an opportunity to continue your development that, unlike mentor coaching is focused on further developing the core competencies. but coaching supervision is really your total development moving forward. Yeah, ICF says it's a richer and broader opportunity for support and development.
For the supervision.
For coaching supervision. So
Okay.
Someone in coaching supervision might come in with a case, an example of one that I had was, it was a new contract for them. And so HR said, oh, you're going to be meeting with so-and-so, and don't tell them, but we're letting them go when they come back from maternity leave.
Oh.
So how do you handle that? Yeah, that was really tricky ethically.
Yeah.
So it can be ethical challenges, disengaged clients, the balance between being supportive and challenging, recognizing how your client, your relationship might be mirroring what's happening in the system and what to do about it. So that systems theory comes back in. And just people that might have been, I've had some amazing coaches that had just gotten thrown off track with some feedback that they received, challenging feedback, and they'd lost their confidence. It's just a variety of things.
Yeah, it is. You travel the world, so many different multicultural aspects of how things are over there. One of the things this is very interesting, actually. I just wanted to say that out. When we say guru, like in the like India or in that part of the world, guru means teacher. When we say guru here, it means that you're SME or an expert. So that's the difference.
Good distinction. Thanks for bringing that out.
A lot of people would be like, "Oh, you're a guru," and they're like, "Guru means what? Is a teacher or an expert?"
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. Yeah,
right. We're coming towards the end of this session, so I just want to ask you this question: what advice you have, if you'd like to give for emerging coaches who wanted to excel in working with leaders and team in a multicultural global context?
Yeah, I would say, get the support that you want and need. And that could be in a peer group, it could be in coaching supervision, ongoing trainings, of course, to maintain our licenses or our credentials, not license, our credentials. Then we have to have the continuing coach education. And really, I know some coaches will go with the cheapest option, I'm going to go and get an hour here and an hour there. And that can be fine at some points, but also, take some time to really dig in and do a certificate program. And I did one on transformative coaching in Bali. It was amazing. Working on polarities. So, and I know you also interviewed Liz Dobbins, who has licensed my materials for the Culturally Intelligent Mentor Coaching Training Program, and we're doing retreats together. So, maybe do a mixture of some, one-offs with some more committed, deeper work.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great to talk with you. Thanks for the invitation.
That was Marilyn O'Hearne, an MCC coach, in conversation with Pravin Sharma at Insight Ignite Coaching Voices podcast. You can contact Marilyn at marilyn@marilynoh.com. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Coaching Voices podcast. I hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights into the world of coaching and leadership. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps others find the show and supports us in continuing to bring you inspiring content. Do not forget to share this episode with anyone you think might benefit from the discussion. And if you're looking to explore coaching further or have any questions, please feel free to connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and stay curious.